Hey everybody, this is Darren Van Damme, and you are watching Flick Connection, the show that helps you get more out of movies, and today I want to tell you about 10 really great hidden gem movies currently available on Amazon Prime. Odds are you've probably seen a couple of these, but there's a very good chance you have not seen all of them, and I'm going to start not necessarily ranking them, but I'm gonna finish with my absolute favorite couple of movies off of this list. Number one features some powerhouse performances from Woody Harrelson and Ben Foster, two of my favorite actors. This movie is called The Messenger, and it's about some guys that are in the military and are the ones that go to the homes of the next of kin and inform them that their loved ones have died overseas. Meaning this is not a feel-good movie, but like I said, very, very strong performances from the two of those guys, especially from Ben Foster. I think he's underrated as an actor. I think he's got some of the strongest chops in the business today, and this movie really puts that on display. But it's not a thrill ride or anything like some of the ones I have on this list. If you want to see some just pitch perfect acting in a really good movie, The Messenger is a great one. Alright, next up is Black Snake Moan, starring Christina Ricci, Justin Timberlake, and Samuel L. Jackson. The cool thing about Black Snake Moan is it's a very different character for him. He's in costume, he's this old grizzled man. Christina Ricci is, I want to say, a nymphomaniac in this one. I believe she's like clinically classified as one in this movie, and he chains her to, I believe, a radiator and tries to cure her. It sounds really dark, and it is dark, but it's not quite as dark as it sounds. It's got a little bit of levity to it, and he's literally just trying to keep her there so that she sort of breaks out of this this mental sort of frenzy that she's in. There's some good blues music in it. I actually saw this one at a special screening in Mississippi, and it was great. I've seen it once since then. I think Justin Timberlake is surprisingly good. This came out kind of before his movie career really started to take off. So a lot of surprises in this one, but for somebody from Mississippi that loves blues, I really, really dug this movie. The Infiltrator stars Bryan Cranston as an agent who infiltrated Pablo Escobar's gang. It reminded me a lot of movies like Donnie Brasco. Bryan Cranston is great in it, of course. John Leguizamo has a really big role in it. Lately, I've only seen him in like these small supporting roles, like his role in John Wick, but here he really sort of gets to explore his character more, and I've always liked him, so it was cool to see him there. Now, you are mostly spending the time with Bryan Cranston's character, but he's so good at it. I didn't feel like I was watching his Breaking Bad character. He's a different character, yet he's not overdoing it. He just plays it perfect, and then you get a lot of really tense sequences revolving around his undercover status. It worked really well, takes place in the 80s, and so there's that vibe. Just a really cool flick that did get some buzz when it came out. It's very well reviewed, as are almost all of these on this list, but just did not get the audience that I think it deserves. Another just great pick to watch on Amazon Prime right now.
What's my stance on 9/11?
Anti. It was a tragedy. I mean, we lost 19 of our best guys.
Huh?
Next up, I've got a couple of dark comedies, starting with The Big Sick. Now, this one had a lot of buzz, so a lot of people did see it, but it's still a fairly small movie, and I think it's definitely deserving of a bigger audience. This one is based on a true story. Kumail Nanjiani, who plays the main character, this is the story of how he met his wife, and in the story, his girlfriend becomes very sick and bedridden in the hospital, and it sort of forces him to learn about her, to befriend her parents. They spend a lot of time in the hospital together while she's asleep. She doesn't know that they're like bonding. Ray Romano plays the father. He's really fantastic. Holly Hunter is even better as the mother. So really great cast. Really good story. It feels like a romantic comedy for much of it, and then once the sickness sort of sets in, it becomes a very different type of movie and a very good movie. It's very well acted and, again, very well reviewed, so if you have not seen this one, it's a very strong recommendation coming from me off of this list. Now, my next dark comedy is Bernie. No, not that Bernie. This Bernie is played by Jack Black. This is also based on a true story and is directed by Richard Linklater, who's famous for movies like Dazed and Confused. And this one's nothing like Dazed and Confused. It's about a guy who gets involved with this relationship with this much older woman who has a lot of money, played by Shirley MacLaine, and ultimately he just like snaps and cannot take it anymore because she is terrible to him. One of the great things about this is it's shot almost kind of like a documentary, like half movie, half documentary, and that there's interviews with the quote-unquote townspeople. Some are real people, some are actors. One of them is played by Matthew McConaughey. So you get this sort of really kind of fun, weird flavor on an otherwise pretty dark movie. I like this one a lot. I think it's one of Jack Black's best performances, and I'm a fan of his. So if you haven't seen this one, another really strong recommendation from me. All right, and then I've got two more sleeper comedies. One stars Ryan Gosling, and that's Lars in The Real Girl. He plays a really odd character that takes around a sex doll with him everywhere that he goes, and it works way better than you'd think it would. He's a brilliant actor as well, that goes without saying, but you're gonna see him in a very different light watching this movie. He plays a character unlike anything he's ever done. The premise is silly, but you ultimately get this really sort of heartwarming story out of it that totally works. Anybody I know that has seen this movie has liked it. If it sounds like you, definitely make this one of the first ones you watch off of this list.
Okay, sir, do you have any firearms or weapons of any kind on your person? It's a good thing they didn't catch this little fella in my boot.
And my last comedy on this list is Elvis and Nixon, which stars Kevin Spacey as Richard Nixon and Michael Shannon as Elvis. That sounds super weird, and it is. This all takes place in one day, and it's sort of this infamous, supposedly true story where Elvis Presley got a wild hair, went to the White House, requested a meeting with Richard Nixon, was granted a meeting with Richard Nixon, and requested this like special badge that gives him like carte blanche to arrest anybody he wants, and a whole bunch of other stuff. They sort of get into it, and is then granted this special agent badge. It's a bonkers story. It's a bonkers cast, because neither one of them look like the characters that they're playing. But Michael Shannon has a lot of fun as Elvis, and the cool thing about this movie is this is cape-wearing, rhinestone, big sunglasses, karate-kicking, pistol-toting, in the White House, pistol-toting Elvis, and Michael Shannon kills it. This movie is an absolute hoot. If you're into learning about that story, you have to watch this movie. Before moving on to my top 3 picks off of this list, if you like this type of content, definitely go ahead and click that subscribe button, and be sure to click that little bell icon so you get notified when I put out a new list just like this one. Side Effects is a really incredible thriller directed by Steven Soderbergh, who's most famous for the Ocean's movies, Traffic. He's an incredible director, and this was a small movie that got sort of a small theatrical release, but it stars Rooney Mara, Jude Law. This is a psychological thriller that really reminded me of classic Hitchcock movies. It's darker because it's modern day, but man, does this one play with your brain. Even if you're not aware that tricks are being played on you, the story plays out great. Channing Tatum has a really short role, but it's good. Like, I couldn't believe where this one went. Twists and turns all over the place in this one. It's a really great ride, and it requires a really great director because it can be confusing, but I thought everything was sewed up really tightly with this one. Another really great thriller from a really great director is A Simple Plan, directed by Sam Raimi, who's famous for the Evil Dead series, for the original Spider-Man movies, and this one's very, very similar to Fargo. If you love Fargo and you've never seen A Simple Plan, I cannot recommend it enough. It stars Bill Paxton, Billy Bob Thornton. They find a bunch of money out in the woods, and as they try to figure out how to chop it up over the following weeks, people start to get a little backstabby, and it's really good. There's some really incredible dialogue scenes. Maybe not quite as good as Fargo in my opinion, but it is damn close. And then my last pick, my favorite movie off of this entire list of really great movies is Mud, starring Matthew McConaughey. Reese Witherspoon has a small role, as well as a couple of others like Sam Shepard. McConaughey plays this kind of street rat, street urchin of a guy that lives out on an island in the middle of the Mississippi River. He's discovered by a couple of boys that then try to help him out because he's trying to evade some people that want him dead. And while this one doesn't necessarily have crazy twists and turns or anything, it's beautifully acted, beautifully shot. It's a great story that doesn't feel like something I've seen before. I'm partial to the setting because of where I'm originally from, but that aside, this is a movie that I own on Blu-ray. I've showed it to a ton of people I know. Everyone has really, really liked it. Strongest recommendation coming from me off of this list. Let me know in the comments below what movies off of this list you really are excited about watching, but I will keep making videos like this one as long as you keep watching them. Thanks for checking this one out, and you will see me on the next one. If you'd like to support the show, you can do so a number of ways. You can become a Patreon supporter like one of these fine people. It's a great way to help ensure that I continue making these because YouTube is not stable. It will demonetize videos like this one at random, but these Patreon supporters also help me do other things. I was just at a movie shoot. I mentioned Dazed and Confused in this video. Jason London from Dazed and Confused was in the movie. I got tons of behind the scenes footage. I'm gonna be cutting together a video for that in the future. Patreon supporters are gonna get a very early look at a movie way before it comes out. So be sure to be on the lookout for that if you are a Patreon supporter. I also have a podcast and I just locked in a guest I am super excited about. So follow that link in the description. Go over there, subscribe. It's a separate channel. A lot of fun stuff coming up there. That wraps it up for this one. I'm coming back next week with a lot of Netflix stuff, I promise.